Happy Tuesday. I hope your week is off to a phenomenal start. This week is the national holiday of Juneteenth, so I found a reading list and picked a couple of books off of there to read, and these are the ones I'm going to talk about today. We're going to talk about three books. The list that I chose to look at was from the National History Museum of African American History and Culture. There is a wide variety of books on there. There's books for kids, there's books for teens, there's historical fiction, there's a couple poetry books, there's some nonfiction books. I'm specifically focused on the three historical fiction books that were on the list. I've read some of the nonfiction, but we're going to do historical fiction today. I know, big giant surprise. The three books we're going to talk about are The Underground Railroad, Conjure Women, and Liberty. I'm really excited to talk about these with you, so let's get into it. They better enhanced my knowledge of the world. The first book we're going to talk about today is The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. Now, I see this on lists all over the place. This is a well-known book. It was turned into a TV show. I haven't seen the TV show, so I'm not going to speak to it, but I really enjoyed this book. This book is the race for a slave. Her name is Cora, as she escapes using the Underground Railroad. It's really just engrossing. You want to know how she's going to do it. Is she going to make it? There's so many obstacles, obviously. It's understandably frustrating, all of the ways that the world made it so difficult for human beings to simply have freedom in this time, and just how unfathomable, but I mean, to a point, some of the pieces of this book are. But it was a really enjoyable is not the right word. It's really, as I said, engrossing. You want to know what's going to happen. You feel like you're in the book. I really enjoyed this read and would definitely recommend it for anyone who's looking for slavery, Civil War, not historical fiction, because it's a phenomenal read. realism, that's definitely in this book. The third book that was on this list is called Liberty. I actually read this one this year in 2024, and I enjoyed it. What I thought was really interesting, what's different about this one compared to these two were both in the South, and one of them trying to move north, but this was based in the North. So both Liberty and her mother are both free women. Her mother is fair enough that she passes for white, and that's how she ended up becoming a doctor. They live in Brooklyn, and it starts pre-Civil War. Then we move through the Civil War. What I found really interesting about that part of the book was just how difficult. I'm not surprised that life was difficult during the Civil War. What I was surprised about was there were active burnings. Specifically, the ones that are mentioned in the book are in Manhattan, of African American people's homes, of people who support them, their homes. Their neighbors literally walked around and marked which buildings needed to be burned, and then they did that. I have no words for that. I wish that it surprised me more than it does, but it makes me angry and sad, and I wish it was unfathomable just how terrible people can be to each other. And I just think that when the Civil War is talked about, at least in my education, my experience, the North is considered to be great and that everyone was on board, and that just was not the case. And so while that is a very small part of this book, I did think that it was a very interesting part of this book. Liberty's mother goes on to have a hospital that's supported by this Black community in Brooklyn, that it's meant to be for colored women. She does then get some backlash when she also allows white women to come, and they do, which is a surprise in and of itself. This is now post-war. Specifically, Liberty goes to the Midwest for college, where she gets to be away from her mom. And really the heart of this book is the relationship between Liberty and her mom, and Liberty trying to figure out who she is. And I don't know that Liberty ever does figure out who she is. It's a real battle for who she is and who she wants to be, and does she know who she wants to be. So which is a great perspective for anyone who is young and doesn't know what they want to do when the world is telling them they have to figure it out. That's a lot of what this is. The last part of the book, Liberty gets married and she moves to Haiti. And I don't know. I still don't. I know a little bit more now, but I do not know enough about Haitian history and the Haitian relations with the United States, specifically during slavery and the Civil War. So I'm excited to read some more about that because I love getting to learn. But it was very fascinating to get to read Liberty's time in Haiti and what she thought of it and how that looks. We don't spend a ton of time in Reconstruction era US in this book, but what's really interesting about both this one and Conjure Women, because it has parts about Reconstruction, is the point that we just don't talk about Reconstruction era that much. It's just not discussed, and largely because it was such a failure, and a failure that we are still coping with the repercussions today. And so it's a fascinating thing to then get to experience some stories about that time when we don't talk about it nearly enough. I found all three of these books to be educational, and I got to learn about something that was a brand new perspective for me. If you're just looking to pick one, I would go with The Underground Railroad, because Colson Whitehead is such an incredible author, but you really can't go wrong with any of these three. All three are just fascinating. They're all about something a little bit different, but they provide such a phenomenal perspective on what life was like for all of these characters during this time. This year, for my Juneteenth book, I'm going to read American Queen, which actually might be right here, The American Queen. So I'll be starting this for Juneteenth, which I'm excited about. And I'll be excited to then talk about it in the future. I would love to hear what you're reading this week. If it's something Juneteenth related, we'd love to hear that. If you are reading something else, I would love to know that too. I'm always looking to add to my seemingly endless TBR. I hope you are going to have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Happy reading.